A new and dangerous chapter in military history is being written, at speeds exceeding 5 times the speed of sound. This is the realm of hypersonic weapons, a technological frontier that promises to reshape the very nature of strategic deterrence and global power dynamics. For decades, the world's military balance has rested on a delicate understanding of response times and defensive capabilities. Nuclear arsenals were governed by a logic of mutually assured destruction, reliant on detection and interception. Hypersonic weapons threaten to shatter this equilibrium, compressing reaction times to mere minutes and rendering traditional defenses obsolete. The race to develop and deploy these systems is not merely a technological competition, it is a frantic scramble to redefine 21st century conflict. The implications extend far beyond labs and test ranges. The nation that masters this technology first will gain a significant, perhaps decisive, military advantage. It could hold an adversary's most critical assets at risk: aircraft carriers, command and control centers with little to no warning. This introduces unpredictability that military planners find deeply unsettling. To understand the strategic revolution underway, one must first grasp what makes hypersonic weapons so different from their predecessors. A hypersonic weapon is a missile that travels at speeds of Mach 5 or higher, which is 5 times the speed of sound, or roughly 3,800 miles per hour, about 6,100 kilometers per hour. However, speed alone is not the defining characteristic. Ballistic missiles, for instance, have reached hypersonic speeds for decades during their re-entry phase. The true game-changer is the combination of extreme speed with maneuverability. Visual aid: a diagram comparing the flight paths of a ballistic missile, a hypersonic glide vehicle, and a hypersonic cruise missile. A hypersonic weapon can change its course mid-flight, flying within the atmosphere to evade detection and confound existing missile defense systems. There are 2 primary categories of hypersonic weapons currently being developed. The first is the Hypersonic Glide Vehicle, or HGV. This weapon is launched into the upper atmosphere by a conventional rocket booster. Once it reaches its peak altitude, the HGV detaches and glides to its target, using aerodynamic forces to perform sharp maneuvers. This unpredictable flight path makes it incredibly difficult for ground-based radar and space-based sensors to track its trajectory and calculate an intercept point. China's progress in hypersonic weapons has been nothing short of astonishing. It's one of the biggest military technological achievements of the 21st century. For years, Beijing poured immense resources into the program. It views hypersonics as a cornerstone of its Assassin's Mace strategy. Assassin's Mace: asymmetric capabilities to counter superior US power. The results became alarmingly clear in recent years. China is deploying operational hypersonic systems. Most notable, the DF-17 missile. First shown publicly in the 2019 military parade, the DF-17 carries a DF-ZF hypersonic glide vehicle. That gives China the ability to put US and allied bases in the Western Pacific at extreme risk. The DF-17 is just the tip of the iceberg. China's ambitions go well beyond regional systems. Summer 2021. Reports stunned the world. The United States, which pioneered much of the foundational research on hypersonic flight decades ago, now finds itself in the uncomfortable position of playing catch-up to China. The Pentagon's response has been a flurry of activity characterized by a significant increase in funding and the simultaneous development of multiple, distinct programs across different branches. The goal is to accelerate development and field an operational capability as quickly as possible to close the perceived gap. However, this urgent effort has been plagued by a series of high-profile setbacks and testing failures, highlighting the immense technical hurdles that remain. The US approach has been less centralized than China's, resulting in a complex web of programs that sometimes compete for resources and attention. One of the flagship US programs is the Air Force's AGM-183A Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, or ARW. This is a boost glide system designed to be launched from a B-52 bomber, providing a standoff capability to strike high-value, time-sensitive targets. A direct comparison of the test records of the United States and China reveals a stark and, honestly, concerning contrast. By all public accounts, China is significantly ahead in the sheer volume and success rate of its hypersonic weapons testing. Flowchart: publicly known hypersonic flight tests, US versus China over the last decade. Over the past decade, China has reportedly conducted hundreds of hypersonic tests, far outnumbering those carried out by the United States. This high tempo of testing has allowed Chinese engineers to gather vast amounts of data, refine their designs, and rapidly mature their systems from experimental prototypes to deployable weapons. The successful 2019 parade of the DF-17 was not a display of a future concept. It was the unveiling of a system that had already undergone extensive and successful testing. The 2021 test of the Fractional Orbital Bombardment System was perhaps the most dramatic illustration of China's advanced capabilities. U.S. officials noted the test was not a complete success, but the ability to launch a hypersonic glide vehicle from an orbital platform demonstrated unexpected technical sophistication. The trajectory of an arms race can often be traced by following the flow of money, and the competition in hypersonics is no exception. While China's defense budget is, notoriously opaque, the scale and speed of its program development indicate a massive and sustained financial commitment directed by the highest levels of the Communist Party. The construction of state-of-the-art research facilities, the extensive testing campaigns, the rapid deployment of systems like the DF-17, all point to hypersonics being a top national priority, likely funded with tens of billions of dollars over the past decade. This centralized funding model allows Beijing to direct resources with an agility and long-term focus that is, difficult to replicate in a democratic system with competing budget priorities. In the United States, the funding picture is much more transparent. The development of hypersonic weapons is not occurring in a strategic vacuum. It is deeply intertwined with the broader military doctrines of both China and the United States. For China, hypersonic weapons are the quintessential assassin's mace technology. They are a key enabler of its anti-access and area denial strategy. It's designed to deter or defeat U.S. military intervention in a regional conflict, most notably concerning Taiwan. By fielding systems like the DF-17 and the DF-21D carrier-killer missile, China aims to create a protective bubble around its coastline. Map shot of Western Pacific showing first and second island chains and potential reach. The hypersonic arms race between the United States vertical bar and China is not happening in a bilateral bubble. It is sending powerful shockwaves across the entire landscape of international security. The most immediate and dangerous consequence is the erosion of strategic stability. For decades, the nuclear balance was predicated on the idea that no country could launch a successful first strike without facing a devastating retaliatory blow. Hypersonic weapons, with their ability to evade detection and penetrate defenses, threaten this core principle. They create a powerful incentive for preemption in a crisis. If a nation believes it can be disarmed by a swift hypersonic attack, as of today, in late 2025, a candid assessment of the hypersonic arms race leads to an unambiguous conclusion. China is currently ahead of the United States. This lead is not measured in every conceivable metric, but in the one that matters most: fielded operational capability. China has already deployed the DF-17 medium-range hypersonic system, integrating it into its military forces. This gives Beijing a tangible weapon that it can use to project power and shape the strategic environment in the Western Pacific today. The United States, by contrast, has yet to field its first operational hypersonic weapon.